talking about Europe, it's a big landmass. Central and Eastern Europe is a key part of it. There has been this 17+1 cooperation mechanism bringing the leaders of China as well as those of Central and Eastern European nations. But there are critics out there. For example, CSIS, a conservative think tank in the United States, said this platform is one where China is exploiting bilateral agreements with European countries. Others say that the cooperation between China and Central and Eastern European countries are undermining the unity of the European Union. How do you look at it?
Well, I look at the 17+1 format in a positive sense. You see, it is important to understand that the countries of European Union who belong to that format, who participate in that format, represent only about 10% of Chinese investment in Europe. Now think about this. Those countries are smaller, they have less history of cooperation with China, and they see opportunity for Chinese investment in Europe as an important element in their policy. And they represent not more than 10% of the total Chinese investment in Europe. Most of the Chinese investment in Europe goes to the West, to countries like Germany, France, Italy, United Kingdom, which was a member of the European Union until recently, and so forth. So if you look at these quantitative balances, you shouldn't be afraid. And secondly, and very important, countries of the European Union who participate in this format do understand the need to comply with the European technical standards. So for example, if infrastructure is built with Chinese investment, that infrastructure has to be in accordance with European standards for building of railways, building of bridges, and so forth. At the time when China is the leading power in engineering in infrastructure, it would be, I think, very short-sighted not to bring China into the picture of cooperation on building further infrastructure. So, in short, I don't think that this assessment of G17 being somehow dangerous or somehow inappropriate is correct. I think it's incorrect, and we simply need further discussion and exchange of arguments to see where there are problems, if they exist at all.
And then how do you think the Belt and Road Initiative has changed the way China cooperates with countries from Central and Eastern Europe, especially against this backdrop of a global pandemic?
Well, now, of course, the global pandemic has slowed down many forms of cooperation, and we have to think about this very carefully for the future. But I think that Belt and Road Initiative has sparked imagination. I mean, it was an interesting, how should I say, characterization of a cooperation for which the time has come. That cooperation between China and other parts of the world, other regions, had to expand simply because of development. China has grown, has become more developed, is a partner, and so are other partners in the world. Therefore, it is important that some innovation is introduced. The key idea that I see in the Belt and Road Initiative is connectivity, better connections. And better connections means many things. Of course, the initial phase was very much focused on infrastructure, on railways, ports, and such things. But importantly, I think we have to think about the new needs. For example, Health Silk Road was another concept which was developed in this BRI framework some 3 years ago. Now is the time to figure out what kind of connectivity in health sector would be necessary. We have a pandemic. We also have in China a dual circulation concept for the future development of China itself. So there should be much space for cooperation in the field of health sector, developing health infrastructure, possibly also cooperating in technologies to develop future vaccines, and so on and so forth. So I think that the imagination that was waken up by the characterization of Belt and Road Initiative is a good thing, but it has to be adjusted to the needs as they arise.
Okay, President Turk, you mentioned China-EU relations. What's interesting was a 2019 European Commission report that really characterized what it believed Beijing was or still is to the EU. And I found this report interesting because China is so many things to Europe. The report says China is a cooperation partner and negotiating partner in areas of interests, an economic competitor in technological leadership, a systemic rival promoting alternative models of governance. What exactly, in your opinion, is China to Europe?
Yeah, clearly, first, China is a very big global player. China is a very important partner of Europe, and China is an ancient civilization Europe has to learn more about. That's my basic take on how I see China. And again, you see, to quote Henry Kissinger, he explained in one of his books the difference between exceptionalism in the United States and exceptionalism in China. And he said that, well, exceptionalism in the United States has a missionary cover.
Yeah, missionary flavor. Yeah.
Missionary flavor, while the exceptionalism of China is essentially cultural. China feels that need for others to really appreciate its culture, to understand its culture, to deepen their understanding of culture. And that's something we need in Europe because, for example, I travel to China often. I don't speak Chinese and I don't pretend to be a specialist, but I understand the need for China to be better understood. And I think that that's a very important thing which we Europeans still have to learn. I, on the other hand, don't clearly understand this terminology of systemic rival. This has to be discussed further. And I think, again, this is a case where the leaders of European Union and the leaders of China will have to explain their perceptions, their vision, and also their concerns. If Europe is concerned about a systemic rival, it should explain what exactly those concerns are about and what can be done to, to develop a proper and mutual understanding. That's where I see tasks for the future.